the radio station Radio Kosciuszko, which is controlled by Moscow, but is broadcasting in the areas along the front line. They, on July 29th, issue an appeal calling on the Poles in Warsaw to rise up, as the Red Army is now on the outskirts. A few days earlier, the so-called Union of Polish Patriots, on July 25th, issues a similar appeal calling on the Poles in Warsaw to rise up. And this Union of Polish Patriots, despite its very nice sounding name, is in reality a creation by the Soviets, made up of Polish communists that had spent the war in the Soviet Union. And this is one of two organizations, the other being the Polish Workers' Party, which in one way you could say is an offshoot of the Union of Polish Patriots, as it was made up of members of the Union of Polish Patriots, even though it didn't have that name yet. That name was first given to it in March 1943. But even a year or even a year and a half earlier, you could say the predecessor of that organization, they sent a couple of men back to Poland that were airdropped into occupied Poland, and they are tasked with creating a communist organization, a communist party in Poland. On the orders of Stalin, they are forbidden to use the name communist in it, because they knew that the Poles had no love lost for communism, especially after their experience with the battle against the Soviet Red Army in 1919, 1920 in the Polish Bolshevik War. Nevertheless, after Operation Barbarossa in 1941, up until that point, Stalin really had no use of any Polish Communist Party, as there was no independent Poland. There was even no Poland at all. He had incorporated the eastern parts or eastern parts of what was pre-war Poland into becoming the western parts of Belarus and Ukraine, which were constituent parts of the Soviet Union. But there was no Poland, so why have a Polish communist organization or Polish Communist Party? After 1941 and this invasion, Operation Barbarossa, he starts realizing that he needs some form of Polish communist party that can be used to, so to say, represent the communist movement in occupied Poland, and that it can have the appearance of being led by Poles. So this is why they are parachuted into Poland and start building this organization. As the Soviet Red Army shows up in the summer of 1944 in those areas, it quickly becomes necessary to create a communist Polish government. So this is when, on July 22nd, the so-called Lublin Committee, or Polish Committee for National Liberation, is created. It is a form of a Soviet, or rather communist government. This is also a moment in which those communists that had been airdropped into Poland in late 1941 and which had created the so-called Polish Workers' Party, as I mentioned previously, not Polish Communist Party, Polish Workers' Party, which had been founded on January 5th, 1942. They, because they felt that they still have some influence and something to say, they couldn't just accept that this union of patriotic Poles from Moscow all of a sudden arrives in Poland after another 2 years of war, and that they can feel that they have everything to say about the situation in Poland. So it is a merger between the two organizations, so to say. Initially, on July 22nd, when they announced the creation of this government, the representatives of the Polish Workers' Party in Warsaw, this delegation by future leaders of communist Poland, Bolesław Bierut and Stanisław Gomułka, they have a hard time reaching Lublin because of the war. Or initially they proclaim it in the city of Chełmno, a little bit further even to the east, but a few days later they are moved to Lublin, and they're given the name the Lublin Committee or the Lublin government. As I mentioned, initially the Polish Workers' Party, they had a hard time getting there, so they arrived first on July 31st, the day before the Warsaw Uprising, and they negotiated with the Union of Poles for another 15 days before reaching an agreement, and they signed the papers, but I'm not sure what you call it in English, antedating, when you...
Yes, antedating.
Antedating, yes, for July 21st, to make it look like there was an agreement before the government was actually announced. This fake government that is created to give it some form of appearance of being a democratic body that represents not just communist or the Polish Workers' Party. They try to make it broader, including some other political parties that had either been forced or swayed to join this formation, such as, for example, the Polish Agrarian Party, or Stronnictwo Ludowe, or Stronnictwo Demokratyczne, and a couple of other. But it is clear that the Polish Workers' Party has all the power, as they are in control of the Defense Ministry, the Security Ministry, the Propaganda Ministry. So all those hard ministries, so to say. Today they are known in Russia as the Siloviki faction, the people that are in control of those ministries, and the same applied for Poland in 1944. However, one of the government members isn't a Pole at all. It is Nikolai Bulganin, a high-up Bolshevik Russian communist who until that point had been a political commissar during the war in the Red Army, but now is being made as the representative of the Soviet Union to this Polish government. And he is also responsible for making sure that security and administration works for this new government.
Adam, as usual, we've come to the end of the segment, so I'm going to have to ask you to pause there, but we'll pick it up next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not, if you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll continue the story. In the meantime, thank you for watching Poland Daily History, and we look forward to seeing you next time.